Thank you, Howard, for this opportunity to share some of my faith journey and also some of my work, redemptive work. I grew up on a farm in Gobi Desert, actually 2 desert systems, Gobi and Badajiling. And there's this little green strip. That's where I grew up on a village and farming wheat, corn, potatoes. Those are the main things. And also we had some sheep, cows to be taken care of. Growing up, so I kind of choose to do this kind of work, taking care of the sheep instead of working in the field. It's too hard. The growing up family background was more Buddhism. My parents, they worship Buddha a few times a year. That was it. And other times they just totally ignore them. We have little statues in the room. They're just usually just under dust, just there. But occasionally, a few times of special year, Chinese New Year, there are a few other times, they will prepare some food and burn some incense before that little statue. And then after that, as I said, I really didn't like the work and in the field, and figured out the one way to get away from that is to study hard. So I studied hard and then went to college in a nearby city, and then I went to Beijing for graduate school, and met my wife there, had our only son in Beijing, and in 1999 we came to the States, came to Memphis directly. I found work at Sheng Zhou first to gain some training, and then after a while stayed on to do research. So about year 2000, so we met some friends here, of course, invited us to a Friday evening fellowship that they met every Friday evening in the Second Presbyterian Church. And Ron and I were invited. I was kind of curious to see so many churches here, never seen, and what do they do in the church? So that's a curiosity. And so I went there, and then they were right in the middle of studying some Bible, and in the middle of something I had no clue. And afterward, and they had time to discuss, I would kind of argue with them a little bit about, because I was pretty much an atheist. All this, especially the Genesis, was very challenging. The very first sentence in the beginning, God created. I never believed that. And growing up in a communist country, and is really brainwashed kind of to there's no God, pretty much. So that's and we never got encouraged to think about those things, and everybody pretty much just accepted there's no God. And growing up, and over time in the fellowship, and we just kind of kept on going over time. And one day, one brother there challenged me. He said, "You don't really know Bible, and you don't really know what we believe. You're just arguing with us, and it's better actually if you really look into it to see what we believe." And as a logical person, I thought that was reasonable. And then I started reading the Bible, and I think after about maybe 6 months reading into it, I don't know what happened. Just my view just changed automatically. It's just amazing. So, yeah, God saved me through actually kind of amazing through our church fellowship, and yeah, that I guess that was really I'm a fruit of that fellowship. Met on Friday evening. They met many years. That was pretty much. And then 2002, I accepted Jesus as my Savior and Lord. So this disease that we try to develop a treatment is called X-linked severe combined immune deficiency. And another name we know is called the bubble boy disease, if you're familiar with the movie. And it's At molecular level, it's due to a defect in one of the genes called interleukin-2 gamma chain. We call it gamma C, and this gene is required for signaling inside of the cell of a number of other signalings. It's like all the signal channel to this gene. If this gene goes bad, all the other signals do not work. So that's how critical it is. The gene is on X chromosome, so it's all boys. And they would not have these cells, and they're just very easily get infected, and initially will respond to antibiotics, but quickly they just stop responding and die within about 2 years. This is just a basic introduction of how actually the therapy works. So, we have the bone, we have blood, and you look at the right side, these are the kind of rough kind of blood cells found in our blood. So in the bone marrow, there's this other group of cells, and particularly on the left, they're called hematopoietic stem cells. These cells live lifelong within us, and they just maintain their identity. They're called hematopoietic stem cells. So they make a copy of themselves. So after a while, after maybe a few months, they'll just make 2 of them. They're kind of identical. But one of them will change a little bit differently, move on to a little bit downstream, become what we call progenitors. And those will assume different identities, and it becomes all the different kinds of cells you find in the blood. This is a dynamic, constant process that happens in our body. So to treat this disease, including bone marrow transplant, and for the method that we are going to treat, we need to treat the stem cell. If we treat the cells after that, after a while, they just go away. And the stem cell is still defective. They'll produce defective cells or no cells. You still get the disease. Around the year, I think, 90s, people, that was HIV virus biology was studied. People really understood how the HIV virus, which causes AIDS, works. People started to think of engineering this, and this is the scientists started to think of ways to how can because this virus, they infect the T lymphocyte. At the time of infection, T lymphocyte actually was healthy. It doesn't trigger things. People think, can we use this actually to infect the hematopoietic stem cells and not triggering the cells to change? And but that will of course cause AIDS. How do you do that? And then so-called engineering kicks in. This is showing what the virus genome, we call it, look like. They have these components U3, R, U5, and in the middle they have other components. And those U3, R, U5 are essential for this virus, but every components are essential. But to use this work for gene therapy purpose, some of the components are unnecessary. So, but it's important for the AIDS virus, HIV, but unnecessary for our delivery purpose. So the way to do this is break the virus genome apart to 3 pieces, keep the backbone, U3R, U5, showing on the bottom right here, and then replace those GAG pol and ENV with the therapeutic gene. They still can deliver the payload, the therapeutic gene, into the cell, but only do once. Once inside of the cell, they cannot make more of it, because inside of the cell, they would not have the GAG pol and ENV. That's just really complicated engineering. So the virus is made, and then for our research, it's really to test 2 things. Does it work? Is it safe? So there's all clinical. There's always 2 questions: does it work? Is it safe? So and we usually don't do this on people. We do on animal. We use mice in the lab. And this is just showing that in the mouse actually it works. And if you look at the highlighted one, that's the treatment group. On the right, that's a healthy mouse. What does it look like for their CD4 and the CD8? Those are 2 different kinds of T lymphocytes. They just look like a healthy mouse now. And the B cells also look like a healthy mouse, and NK cell a little bit lower, but which is perfectly fine for therapeutic purpose. And the next really question is, so it works. So is it safe? So actually we spend more time on addressing the safety because we don't want to treat one disease and cause another one. Then we have to submit all our research to FDA. FDA will look at the evidence, everything, and then allow us to test this in babies. So this is how the treatment works. So as I said, these are boys, infants, and they quickly get diagnosed right now because of the screening pre-born, and they actually already know these babies will get this disease before they were even born. And there's a bone marrow harvest. In the medical doctor will take about 1 hour actually to drill the bone. Yeah, it's a kind of hard to imagine, just to take the bone marrow out. That's a little bag put into, and then that bag gets transferred to our children's GMP facility. A good manufacturing practice that for this kind of manipulation, it has to happen in those kind of facilities. It's very clean. There's like air. There's no particle dust. It's very clean air. We all gone up very cleanly and going into manufacture. So the bag of bone marrow transferred into the clean room, and then we the majority of the cells are like blood cells. The bone marrow and blood, they are very similar, and some other cells. 99% of the cells we don't need. Those are the other cells that will die away over time. We only need the stem cell. Then we have ways to purify the stem cell, to select those out so that we can deliver the vector virus particle into it. If you don't purify, you have to add maybe 1,000 more particles, which is a manufacturing process. So it's very hard and it doesn't work very well. So purification is important. To purify the cell out and put in the culture dish, and then we add the virus. That was another whole category need to be produced in a particular way. Add it to the cell, and it takes 3 days. We take the cells, put into dish overnight. Next day, we add the virus into it, put it back into the dish overnight, and then we freeze the cells down, put into a bag, and freeze and put into liquid nitrogen. And then we take sample to do lots of tests to make sure our manipulation did not damage the cell, and this product is still safe. And then the doctor taking care of patients will trigger a preparation process to prepare the patient with some called little busulfan to make a little bit of room for the engineered cell to actually engraft. If you don't do that, our cells will fight against the cells still in the baby, and usually the baby cell will win. So we have to damage the cell a little bit so that our cell can win over the patient's cell, and then it's called cell infusion at bedside. Actually, the treatment, the first few patients I was at the bedside watching, it was so easy. You don't do anesthesia. It's just a simple IV. You get the bag of cell into a water bath, 37 degree, like 5 minutes. It just warm up, become a solution. You don't see cells. The nurse will draw into a syringe, put into IV. Within 10 minutes, treatment is done. It's just that at the time of treatment, you really don't see what's behind this. All this kind of research is done. So this is we have treated. This is showing 10 patients treated. We have treated 16 patients now. Every single one was cured. This is showing on the top left. The CD3, the T lymphocytes, you can see that dashed line. That's the value of normal. Below that is immune deficient. Above that is normal. And you see before 3 months, and they were very low. And then the T lymphocytes come up. So as I said, I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior in 2002. And then I quickly learned that the true purpose of my work was to glorify God, not to glorify myself anymore. I started learning to live this new life, and I was talking, if anybody is in Christ, there is a new creation. Old is gone, the new, it's a new life. And I didn't know how to live it. I had to learn it. So on Sundays, I would go to church to worship instead of working. So So this is a life change that Bible teaches. And later on, I started attending men's Bible study. And also I started getting up early in the morning, usually before 6 o'clock, and daily almost, I think, to read Bible. And that's my first thing. I just so blessed to, one thing, I'm a person usually hard to keep routine. But I'm so blessed by God to help me to keep that routine for the many years. About 2002, I said I took on the project of developing the gene therapy, this gene therapy. So I did differently, of course, my faith, and I often asked God to bless the work of my hands and minds, and I prayed a lot for the project and the people. And also, I was given a small team of 3 people for several years to work on this. By 2010, we were able to demonstrate the therapy works I presented, and we spent 2 more years to show that it was safe. In the process, God used one member of my team to grow my patience towards other people. I said, I did not pay attention to people. Now, given several people, I have to, and this person was kind of challenging, but over the time, a really biblical principle, love. How do you, in this situation, challenging situation, show love and become more patient? And I become more generous with my time and credits. And usually, all times after getting credits, now I was kind of in the process. I was willing to give credits out to the people to let them present the work, let them show that the things that they have done. Instead, I usually, all the times, I would take all their research and present to people and pretend that I did them all, kind of that was old and new. And also I realized that the janitor's work is more important than mine. I started paying attention to all kinds of people in the institution, the service people, engineers, fix our instruments, and all times I just think, okay, that's their job, and they come to fix the instruments. And now I in the process, I started to really appreciate what they're doing to help us to that as a big team to get this project going. I also became, over time, more content and knew that God was using my work for the kingdom. And it's actually my work and His work, and He's in control. He's blessing the work of this through the process. And of course, even though sometimes I did not feel that way, the challenging times, the hard times, I did not feel. That's kind of overall the faith thinking, and of course, this to using a bad virus, HIV, cause AIDS, and now can be used to actually. I guess over the years, looking back at my life as I was thinking of these things, just God is so faithful. So He is working on you. So that's a good assurance. Often it's hard, I know. But it's a good assurance that He's not going to give you up. So.
With all this research and all you know about cells and how they work and how they operate that I can't even formulate a good question about, but what does it tell you about creation or evolution? What does it tell you?
Oh, that's a really great question. I'd love to answer those kind of questions. I study really biology, study cells kind of every day. I think about the cells, just think about the complexity and beauty of the cells. Just think about that in one particular cell in our body, which we have billions of those. At giving any moment, there's thousands of different kinds of chemical reactions going on in a very highly regulated way, just constantly all the time. And then you go back to look at the interactions of molecules and all those organelles with the parts. There's such nicely put together. It's you cannot imagine how this can be evolved over time. And also all these parts, they have to work together the same time so that it can work. And for evolution to work, it has to, for millions of years, piece by piece. And if one piece is missing, it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, it's useless. If it's according to the evolution theory, if it's useless, it will not continue. It will just go away. How can you ever build something complicated like that? It will never.